Hello, welcome to the Vet Project Podcast, the very first episode. We're very excited, very nervous, and excited about this very first episode, wondering where this podcast will take us. So we decided to record this podcast just because we were having some really good discussions, really good conversations outside of our training, outside of our workshops, that we just thought were interesting enough that we wanted to share them. A lot of our personal reflections, a lot of ideas, a lot of bits of research that we're reading at the moment that we end up talking about. And we thought it'd be really valuable to then share them with our audience, share them with people who might be interested, share them with neurodivergent people in the veterinary industry and the people that work with them. Or manage them. So in this very first episode, we racked our brains. We've got a list of 100 topics we want to try and cover, all of the different things that we end up chatting about. But I thought a good place for us to start was just to hear a little bit about our journeys and how we came to find out about our own neurodivergent conditions and the ongoing process of discovery, because it's a journey, it's ongoing. We're constantly discovering things about ourselves. Am I right, Helen?
Yes, you're definitely right. So I think we can talk a bit about our journey and ourselves and the benefits that we've kind of had from our self-discovery. I think voyage of self-discovery is how I like to think
That's a good question, isn't it? Is it all benefits? Are we?
Oh,
Am I better off
oh,
after my diagnosis? Yes, 1000%. Is it all positive? No, absolutely not. There's some things that I catch myself doing. Often when we talk about diagnosis, one of the things that comes up is that skills regression. So basically, we realize we've got the thing. So let's say for me, it's ADHD. I have ADHD diagnosis, and I lost the ability to beat myself up because I've got this diagnosis that explains all the traits. So for me, lazy is my trigger word. So we all have these words that we beat ourselves up with, and lazy was mine. And I'd be on the couch screaming at myself in my head. Now, externally, it looked like I was doing nothing, but in my head, absolutely yelling at myself, come on, you're lazy, useless, whatever, all of the bad words I would call myself, to get myself to do stuff. And of course, then you get a diagnosis and you realize that these words don't apply. There's a reason for it. And so this inner drill instructor that would yell at me to sometimes do stuff, if the wind was in the right direction and I'd slept the exact right amount of minutes or whatever it was, lost the ability to kind of motivate me. So I had to learn a whole different skill of motivation because of this new label. And I think it's something we see very often is this skills regression. Is this? I now know about it. I know about these things, and so why would I continue to pretend? Why would I continue to push myself when I now have this reason? It's a neurological developmental condition, rather than something that is wrong with me, bad with me, and that I need to fix or push through or use these coping mechanisms, which are often really bad for us.
but are you saying that's a bad thing? Because I'm not sure I agree. That skills regression sounds like a bad thing, but also surely the disappearance of your inner drill instructor and the kind of formation of new strategies around task initiation, which is a podcast in itself, is it not?
I think we should probably make it one, yeah.
I don't think that sounds like a bad thing.
I think that's the point, though, isn't it? So in the beginning, when I first got the diagnosis, there was the dip. Like, well, what the heck do I do now? I've got this label, I've got these ideas, I've got all this stuff that I'm learning, all this stuff that I know. What do I do with it? So in the beginning, you get skills regression. As you then learn, now I don't motivate by punishment. I don't motivate by beating myself up. I motivate by engagement. I motivate by excitement. I motivate by novelty, by just wanting to do stuff. And I think for me, it's still quite joyful to be able to do stuff. I still get pleasure from the fact that I can sit down and actually do tasks rather than having this big, like days, week-long fight with myself to send an email or to, write the workshop or whatever used to be the overwhelming challenge that I couldn't get over. So now I just get joy from. In fact, when I first I am medicated, and when I first started taking the meds, because I already had some of the strategies in place, I actually went a bit manic with like the joy, the reward of doing stuff. I was like, I was doing everything. I was working like huge amounts of hours just because I could. And it was just such a like exciting, incredible experience to be able to do stuff that I actually had to like come down a level of meds and sort of wind it in a bit because it got to the point where I was a bit too much. Too much. There we are. There's an episode in itself, which is definitely an
And a
episode
trigger
on
word.
too muchness. Yeah, trigger words. I ended up having a panic attack. I ended up sort of building the stress so much, which was tied to the joy. So yeah, ended up taking on too much, becoming overwhelmed, and at that point, not having the skills to deal with it. So this is the kind of flip side. I could do stuff, so I did too much, and then couldn't keep it up, couldn't sustain it, and so got myself in trouble. Dealing with all these new sensations, new ideas, new experiences.
Yeah, we wanted to talk about our experiences around late diagnosis, didn't we, in this
Hmm.
episode? And I
We did.
think it'd be nice to hear a bit about us and our kind of journey
Yeah,
up to this
I think it's
point.
probably certain listeners should probably get used to is the tangential nature of some of these things. If we just start like rambling and talking, and oh, and here's let me tell you about the history of Irish culture, whilst also talking about burnout.
And I'll come and keep us on track. Like that's how we
That sounds
that's
good. That sounds like
how we
a very good idea.
work. So I'm a vet and I was a clinical vet for about 15 years and started off in mixed practice, which I loved. I did 3 years in mixed practice and then worked in a very large, very busy charity hospital doing mainly ECC work. Um, and I loved that as well. It really fitted my neurotype, as it turned out, even though I didn't know it at that point. Um, and uh, I had 3 kids, and my eldest got put on the autism diagnostic pathway, and that was really interesting to me. Um, and I met somebody who told me that neurodivergence is often hereditary, and that made me think about myself and look at myself and think about whether that might be the case for me. And I was struggling at the time, um, and I came to the realization that ADHD might be a thing for me, and so pursued a late diagnosis of ADHD, and that was 3 years ago, I think now, 4 years ago nearly.
Mhm. Yeah, that sounds about right. It's funny. I'm just for anyone watching the video, I am a kinetic processor, so I like to move. You see me wiggling on my chair, playing with my pen. I'm fidgety basically because it helps my brain work. And one of the things I like to do is scribble notes. So I pulled out. I've got this pads of post-it notes, post-its everywhere, all around me. You just can't see them. So I like to pretend to be professional, but I'm capturing now these ideas so we don't forget them. If someone doesn't write these down, these ideas for podcasts are never going to happen. So I'm trying to capture. I've got one,
Last
and it's not
forever.
one that we thought was one of the best ones. I've already forgotten. There we are. ADHD and very poor short-term memory. Not definitely not my forte. Short or long-term memory for that matter. Um, names are an absolute. They just go in one ear and just fall out of the other for me. I could work with someone for months, and someone asked me what their name is, and I've just no clue. I guess I should introduce myself as well.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
don't
please
come
do.
from the veterinary industry. I come from opera singing. So I was an opera singer, international opera singer, traveled the world. That's why I now live in South Germany. Ended up there. Came here, met someone, quite liked it, and so I stayed. Mostly for the weather. The weather is lovely. I'm about halfway down France, so it's quite warm in the summer, I have to say. Um, and I've been coaching for many, many years. So coaching performance, coaching teaching singing, and coaching anxiety. So practical ways to get over anxiety. And that was how I came to find out about ADHD. Was I was doing research for my anxiety workshop, advanced research, and I stumbled across the idea of ADHD and watched a couple of videos. One from a guy on Harley Street just saying your life might have looked like this if you got had ADHD, and he just told me the story of my life. Absolutely, from like day one, this is how you will have struggled through university, and this is the kind of thing that you've got excited about, and you got all these unfinished projects, and you got ideas all the time that never really come to anything, or you do a thing and you're hyper focused and you do loads of it, and then you never touch it again. He just described absolutely my existence at the time, and so at that moment, I was like, "Heck, this is something I should really look at." um, and of course, deep dived, hyper focused, whatever you want to call it, into ADHD. And it was just, it explained everything. Explained everything about my life and everything about how my brain worked and all the ways that I was beating myself up at the time. This is all kind of around COVID. So I had the time to do all of this. Um, yeah, and then it took a long time to then get the diagnosis, being sort of between countries, not sure which country I lived in at the time. Uh, and eventually had to, like most people who actually want a diagnosis, had to go private and pay the money in Germany to get the private diagnosis. And it's funny, by the time I got around to getting diagnosed, I was already coaching. I already had clients, I'd already really far down the journey. But still, there was that little nagging doubt. Do I? Don't I? Am I? Are you sure you've got ADHD, or is this just like it's just convenient? And I think that's one of the important things about getting the late diagnosis is you've coped, you've managed for so long. You develop the coping mechanisms and your stories that you tell yourself, and it's genetics. So your family have probably got some stories as well, and so you all, we're all just a bit mad here. My family are always late for everything. All of these things that we come to accept as normal. I think that's one of the weird things about the diagnosis. Suddenly you're not normal, which is beautiful and nice and explains so much and gives you so much room for compassion, but also sets you apart. It also makes you other. So I think it's part of one of the reasons why I see a lot of resistance to people wanting to get the label because it then they've known their other for so long. You can't avoid it. We all know it and knew it for a long time. But I just thought it was like general weirdness rather than something that had a label and an explanation I could work with.
Yeah, I think I had this massive, as you know, because we were talking a lot at the time, this massive, massive grief process, kind of
Yeah, grief
around
is
the
the word. Absolutely grief.
mm, yeah, and I could kind of pick out the stages of grief as we were kind of, it was almost like, right, I finished that stage and then I'm on to the next stage. But it wasn't at the diagnostic time for me. It was at the kind of realization time. Like all those types were very close together for me because once I'd realized I might be ADHD, I pursued the diagnosis very, very quickly. Um, and again, went and did that privately because I just wanted to, I had to know. Um, so, but yeah, absolutely. And also, I was pregnant at the time, and there was massive hormonal changes going on that just, it was a crazy time. Um, but yeah, I think the grief was huge. It was huge.
Mm.
And I
And
don't
just
really
to,
mean
to
that.
explain it, obviously we talk about this a lot, the grief process of the realization of the what it, but what are you grieving? What exactly are you grieving in there?
I think loss of thinking that I was normal, the loss of that kind of persona, even though it's kind of you're trying to shove your square self into that round hole or whatever, where you want to put it for so long. I think there's some relief and there's some like massive joy there, but there's some, oh crikey, that it, I'm not quite who I thought I was. I think loss of a perceived self. I think I was grieving.
Yeah, I think it's the life you thought you were going to lead, you know, uh,
Yeah.
or I mean, the grief for me was backwards grief. So it was like, I
Okay.
wish I'd known this sooner. Why did no one tell me? How did no one spot this? And look around at my mum, she's like, poster child for ADHD. How did no one spot this? Different generation thing. I just think, what would have been possible if I'd known sooner? Like, I enjoyed my life. I had, great life pre-diagnosis, but post-diagnosis, totally different, completely different, and a lot less strain, a lot less pressure. Um, I think there was a lot of time pre-diagnosis where I was just sad. I was just, couldn't work out why stuff wasn't going the way I wanted it to. Why, I felt like I was working so hard, but wasn't getting the output. Couldn't finish stuff, couldn't follow through a thought, even though it was genius, great ideas, amazing stuff, but never like do it. I had books of ideas where I'd write down the ideas I'd have, and it's incredible how I always imagined there was someone sat in the pub when I was, when I was telling someone these ideas who'd sort of overheard me and gone, "Oh, that's a great idea. I'll go and do that," and made millions off it. um, just so I had no follow through. Obviously, if I'm having the idea, turns out I'm not the only one who can put two and two together and get six and come up with a sort of world changing thing. But other people, without my limitations, could actually do it. And so I kind of the grief for me was a lot about what could have been, what should have been. If I'd had the support that the kids get. I think I starting to recognise a lot of the support is around children. Even now, adults are very badly provisioned in the UK. I mean, in the world, but also in the UK. There's not very much support or help or something. I think that's one of the reasons why we wanted to set up the vet project, was to provide that help, was to be that support that you didn't have when you were going through this process. When you were being a leader, when you're being a professional. Yeah. So I think that's the kind of grief of it is recognizing that this has been true all along. And if only I'd known. Um, going through all of this that I go through now in the years after diagnosis, and sort of um, all of the realizations that I'm still having. It would have been really nice to have those when I was more flexible years ago. Less responsibility, it was less important to build a stable career and all those things. Where you could maybe embrace things a little bit easier without the fear of your brain getting in the way.
And some of those things that we're both talking about there are emotional regulation, and obviously, as neurodivergent people, we obviously that's a thing, isn't it? A part of executive function, and that can be tricky for us. Um, and I see a lot of people asking on Facebook groups and things like that uh, about support around uh, diagnosis time, I think, and what do I need? And I always say um, it is other people who are going through the same thing or have been through the same thing to just talk to just, chat to about. Obviously, you and I went through that at a similar time, didn't we? And we talked a lot about it, and I was incredibly grateful to have that support. And I also had other friends that had neurodivergent kids that were incredibly supportive and understanding and ND affirming and all of that sort of stuff around that time. And I would not have got through that process without, you and them. Definitely not.
And it's one of the reasons why I wanted to make this the first episode is, this is the journey. It's scary. You feel so alone in it because who can you talk to? Like no one else is at this stage. People are further on, or no. What is it like? The other 90% of people of the population just don't understand it, just don't get it, can't see it from your perspective, because their brains are different. You're unmotivated. Oh, we'll just, make a list, or all of the kind of advice that works. It works for neurotypical brains. Eat the frog, Daniel. You know what you're doing, trying to trying to get motivated first and then do the task. No, no, no. Just jump in and do it. Just didn't work for my brain. And so all of these ways that you then beat yourself up. But I think what's interesting is until the moment I read that article and then watched those videos and then did the deep dive research, the idea of ADHD would not have crossed my mind once. I would never have connected this condition with myself and my behavior. I was relatively successful. I was, artist, traveling opera singer, doing lots of very cool things. I would never have even begun to conceive of that being something for me, because all of the behaviors, all of the things that I now know as traits, which were incredibly painful and difficult, I just normalized. It's just how it is. Oh, I haven't slept right, therefore I'm tired, or I've slept too much, or, I don't want to do this thing. There must be some deep emotional reason, and I should probably go to a therapist and talk about it. But actually, it's just my brain not working the way I expected it to, because those expectations are based around neurotypicalness. So I want to say about my diagnosis, I was coaching ADHD at the time. I was an ADHD coach, but still, when I got that diagnosis, there was that 1% doubt. Are you sure? Are you sure I'm not making this up? And when I finally got that bit of paper, went to the pub with my partner, and I cried because I was so relieved that I was right, that there was this thing, and that wasn't making it up. And I think that's part of the doubts, one of the barriers is what if I'm making it up? What if it's a lie? What if this thing that explains everything that, will lead to support and all of the things that I've always thought I needed? What if I'm wrong? What if it's a lie? What if I've just sort of found this convenient excuse? I think that's something that people feel a lot is, what if I'm making it up?
Yeah, and we talk about that kind of excuse versus like explanation, don't we? And yeah, I do think that's pretty universal, isn't it? People thinking, "Crikey, what if I'm wrong?" And I do think that is a barrier to diagnosis with some people. Um,
And
but
I
yeah,
think
so
it's partly the inconsistency of it as well. So on a good day, when the wind's blowing in the right direction, whatever, if I beat myself up enough, I can do the thing. So
yeah,
then the trait doesn't exist. Be on time, I can motivate myself, I can start the task, I can do the thing. Uh, that's just very few days. So the evidence would suggest, well, you can do it, right? And so that's partly what you use to kind of convince yourself and beat yourself up. And you're all right some days. You're not going to have the meltdown, or you're not sort of sensorily over reactive, or you can read the text if it's dyslexia, or you can tell the time, whatever it is, whatever your version of neurodivergence is showing up for you. And I think the inconsistency of it then leads you to think, well, if I just work harder, do the thing, make more lists, beat myself up more, I'll be able to do it. I lost track of the amount of times I would like think, well, tomorrow I'll be this completely different person. I'll do all these different things that I've been planning that I know I need to do. Tomorrow will be the day. And I go to bed, of course, wake up the next morning, the exact same person, you know,
yeah.
again, because I didn't have the support. I was trying to do it myself.
And so what then, from your point of view, what benefits did it bring, diagnosis, do you think?
And the big one is compassion.
Mm,
you know, Not beating yourself up, not putting yourself into panic stress mode every day in the hope that if I get enough stress, I'll be able to do the thing or, tackle the whatever it is. Uh, it's genuinely life changing, health changing, everything changing, because your body's just not ruined the whole time. Needing more sleep just from being in this constant like, come on, stress to do stuff mode, or if it's a long day, using stress to get to the end of it, because you've run out of dopamine, you've run out of neurotransmitter, you've run out of the chemical that makes you be able to do stuff. So building in that compassion, or with the compassion, then going, okay, so that doesn't work. This is how my brain works. Well, what would work? And being a bit more curious and finding reasons, finding explanations. I can finally do research and work out what is causing the thing, what's causing the problem, what's causing the pain, the suffering. Let's be honest, from my brain not working the way the world is designed for it to work. So it works perfectly well. It's absolutely brilliant, just not the way the world tells me that it should work. You know, uh, Working in general, for instance, is very consistent. You go to work every day and you work the same amount, and you come home at the end of the day. That's how the world is designed. Unfortunately, it's not how my brain works. My brain's like, do loads of stuff, brilliant, enjoy it, have a great time, and then do nothing. So being opposite was perfect. I'd go on a project, a couple of months, work my absolute hiney off, and then come back and crash. Wait for the next big project. Um, Unfortunately, I was apparently supposed to work between the projects to then find the projects, and that was the bit that was missing. I was always kicking myself about. Um, yeah, how about you?
definitely compassion, self-compassion, that first step. But then also, I think, kind of building on from that, um, formulating strategies and using coaching, using ADHD coaching to build strategies. Um, and then comes self-belief, I think, because you can do more stuff, you can do things better because you've got the strategies in place to do it. And then confidence from that, I think. So I would say that through all of those steps, and it takes a long time. It's not immediate stuff. Like it takes a long time, all of that stuff, isn't it? Um, but I think that I'm much more confident than I was pre-diagnosis. I'm much more myself.
Definitely, definitely. Just externally, your confidence, my confidence, both growing. I mean, that's the coaching process, isn't it? I think
Mm.
we're coaching very similar ways. Is that it's about building the wins. Got
Mm.
so much failure behind us. So many times it didn't work, even no matter how hard we felt like we were pushing. So translating all of that, converting it and going, okay, well, if we just had this little thing, this little bit of knowledge, this little strategy, actually that turns into a win. We've done the thing and it's amazing, it's exciting, and it's using all the strengths that we've got. And that's how we build the confidence is not expecting ourselves to fail. If I start doing something about this idea, I will lose interest and I will fail, was my expectation, 100%. So then I wouldn't engage with it. But now it'd be, well, if I want to do the thing, I'll do it. So it build, make a podcast, let's say. It'll build the win. It'll build the win, which then enough wins snowballs to become huge confidence. That's the sort of the mantra of that project coaching. I think start recognizing that if you do stuff, it has an impact and you can change your life. So little things that you do will add up to life changing behaviors. And what's difficult about it is if you'd have told me pre all of this that you need to reach out and go to a coach and have them help you, I'd laughed in your face. So, what do you mean? I do it myself. Do it myself. Massively independent. And I find a lot of the people we work with, a lot of neurodivergent people are, because they learn to be very early on. No one understands me. No one gets it. I'll deal with it myself. Or, I'm in a neurodivergent household. There's not enough energy or attention or perceived attention to go around. Or me as a neurodivergent kid needs to be communicated in a way that perhaps one or both of my parents aren't giving me. So I learn I have to deal with it myself. Become incredibly independent. And of course, build that through adult life. If I was asking for help every time I needed help, I'd never stop asking for help. So you learn very quickly to just to not. And if you do ask for help, they don't understand you anyway. What do you mean you can't get started? Just start. And so we sort of, it's very isolating, that I think, and one of the big symptoms of neurodivergence. One of the things that the reasons we set up ThinkBox, for instance, was to create this group coaching thing because we are all a bit lonely in it. It's a very lonely place because you're different, and who do you talk to? Who do you tell about this stuff? Because if they don't have a brain like yours, they don't understand your brain. They're just not going to get it. That's a very compassionate, patient friend. So the idea that you would then have to reach out to a coach or something and say, "Hey, tell me what to do." I hate being told what to do. Nobody tells me what to do. That's the reason why I'm self-employed. Can't work for someone else. So the whole sort of idea of it would be so alien, but actually turns out to be the most helpful thing in the world. Just that second brain to help translate your brain to point it in the right direction. I've had several coaches, I have to say, learn something different from each of them, or a different approach or a different way of using language. I think it's something that thankfully is becoming more commonplace, that coaching is a concept. We've now you've got your nutritional coach, you've got your fitness coach, you've got your executive coach, your work coach, whatever it is. Why not your neurodivergent coach? Your yoga teacher is a former coach. So I think it's becoming more common that we have these different people that we turn to, thankfully, because it's the exact right kind of support. I think especially around a diagnosis, you just need someone to talk to. If you're going on meds, if you're not going on meds, doesn't matter. Just someone to to process it all with, because what happens is you just get given this piece of paper. It's like, oh, great, go into the big wide world with your piece of paper. It's going to change everything. Well, it doesn't change anything. You're still the exact same person, just the exact same person with a bit of paper that your brain can't comprehend. So getting someone to talk to is so important through that process.
I think the post-diagnosis support of kids and adults is just non-existent, essentially.
Non-existent. So, there's nothing.
Yeah. So that's what we kind of set out to do. And it's great for us, isn't it, as coaches, because we also learn things off our coachees as well, which is like such a nice part of the coaching process from the coach's point of view.
Definitely. I mean, I think the way we work with coaching is that the way we have to work, especially in neurodivergent coaching, is that the coachee is the one that creates the strategies and support. So you're there giving some guidance. Might look like this, might look like this, but actually the coachee is the one that has the genius ideas that would fit their life, that would fit how they work. So often I'm amazed by the stuff they come up with. It's like, wow, this is brilliant. Actually, I'm going to make a note. I've got this going on a post-it. This is going on the
It's
wall. You know,
inspirational.
I'm going to
Yeah,
use
it is.
this all week and
Yeah,
pretend it's my idea. You know?
yeah, yeah. And I think we have struggles in different areas of life, I think. So you talk about work a lot and having struggles around that. I don't have, well, I have some of those struggles, but my kind of, uh, and I do wonder if it's a gender thing here. Like my struggles and my kind of shame is around my home life and like how tidy I can keep the house, and the answer is not very. And you know how on top of the washing I am, and all of those things alongside work and you know being a mother and being a wife and being a friend and everything else. So I think that yeah, I think this comes up time and time again with us that like your areas of low confidence are slightly different to mine.
Yeah, definitely, which is good because we thankfully balance. So not, you know, if ever we meet one area where we're both underconfident, we're trying to avoid it. I think this is the big word. Just the big word is shame, isn't it? This is a whole. This is definitely an episode. It's gone on the post-it for episodes.
Yeah.
Because when we can't do stuff, when we don't meet the world's expectations of what we should be doing, and the shoulds. There's so many shoulds. I should be doing this. I should be able to do that. I should be able to get on. I should be able to whatever. It builds shame. It builds a lack of self-esteem. You know, I used to struggle to write essays in university. So much shame around that. Just not being able to do it. You know, and ended up me and my housemates. You know, what a coincidence that I lived in a house full of people who were very similar to me. And so we used to have to go out clubbing, get hammered, absolutely hammered, come back, drink a few cans of Red Bull and coffee, and we'd work all night. We'd write the essay overnight. So it'd be finished, done, but of course you'd be ruined. You'd take you a week to recover from this massive essay writing bender, just as a way to do it because the brain was struggling so much to task initiate, just like a way around it. I wrote great essays. Like Drunk Daniel is quite the intellectual. I'd read it back, you know, a couple of weeks later when I'd recovered a bit. I wouldn't understand half of it. It would just over my head. But Drunk
Too
Daniel
good.
knew exactly what he was writing about. It was genius. Yeah, and that's the weird part of it, isn't it? It's the paradox of it's actually really good stuff. You know,
Mm,
as people are like, "Wow, he's so clever," you know, he can do all this stuff, but no one saw the struggle that it
mm.
took to get there. I think this is, you know, we do stuff, we manage stuff. You know, you get through vet school or nursing school, or you know, you get the job, but you hide from everyone how hard it is, how much you're dealing with just to do the normal stuff. I think that's the big difference of the diagnosis is that either you stop hiding it or you stop hiding it for yourself. Stop pretending it's normal. You know, that was not normal behavior. To write an essay, I shouldn't have to get absolutely hammered, go out on a, you know, drum and bass night, and then drink coffee and Red Bull and write it overnight. That shouldn't be a thing. But we normalized it because it was what we needed, and there's more than one of me, which made it even easier to normalize it and to not have so much guilt and shame around it because there are other people involved.
And that's the thing about late diagnosis, isn't it? That we've had a lifetime of that shame build up.
Mhm.
And so unpicking that and kind of working through all that, um, and getting our kind of strategy sorted out and our self-belief and our confidence, you know, up. It takes time and a lot of work
Mhm.
and a lot of energy and a lot of kind of unpicking of past beliefs, which obviously we talk about a lot, don't we, in coaching. Um, there's a lot of kind of soul searching, isn't there, and heartache and
Yeah, and I think that's
joy and
part of it is you've had this shame for so long, and you know maybe you use the shame to motivate, and so
mm,
it's a technique, and so letting go of that is hard. Again, around these beliefs, I believe that I need to get drunk and stay up all night to write an essay. Absolutely, this is the only way to do it. This is just how I work, or this is just how it is. And then someone coming up to you in a coaching session, or you know after your diagnosis, when you're doing your research, and going, "Oh, actually, it's not like that at all. Your brain's just different. If you just do this other thing, it'll change your life." And there's so much resistance for it internally because this is a behavior you've done many times and it's worked, and therefore it's reinforced. And so letting go of that just like from one day to the next, just okay, I don't need that anymore. This huge thing, this huge part of who I am, it's really hard. And I think it's again talking about paradoxes. Getting that bit of paper doesn't change who you are from day one to the next day. You are still the exact same person. It doesn't change who you are at all. All the good stuff, all the bad stuff, you are still you. Um, but it gives the opportunity to change afterwards. And the change is drastic because now you got this knowledge. And then I guess it's about how you use that knowledge, right?
Yeah, and looking at those beliefs and rewriting them in your new context
Mm.
is, there's a reason why we've been doing things like that. There's a reason why we've been holding on to those beliefs because they're useful, as you say to us, and they help us to get through. And I think a lot of people that I see, and certainly my experience was the worry is that if we let go of that belief, what's going to happen? Am I not going to be able to motivate myself? Like, am I going to be a different person? Like, and my experience, and I know that other people's experiences are absolutely not. We find that drive from somewhere. It just comes from a place of kind of joy and, you know, purpose rather than shame and fear and kind of, you know, self, disgust or whatever it is, whatever internal monologue we've got going on.
It's interesting. I don't know how long these episodes are going to. This is the first episode. We've never done it before, so we don't know how long we're going to chat for. But just thinking around that, there are so many states that I'd normalized. Like I was in
Mm.
and out of depression all the time. Do you know what I mean? Because I thought it was useful. I thought that being in that slightly tired, grumpy state was a way to access some kind of creative, artistic energy. It wasn't. It was just my subconscious telling me, like, what are you doing? um, that low energy, I'll constantly stay in a resting state, which was shut down, partly to keep
Mm.
away the shame and the guilt of not being able to do stuff. So it was easier for me to stay in a sort of slightly depressed, let's look after myself, take it easy state than confront, let's go out there and take action and do stuff because that felt really bad. It was like it was less bad to be depressed than it was to try and do stuff which you couldn't do, which would push all your shame and guilt buttons. You could in depression you can believe you're the greatest person in the world, but not ever actually have to test that theory because you knew you were going to fail.
I feel like we should end on a positive note that's not depression.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. We'll probably cut that bit out. It's too much. That's the moment where we go, I think I've overshared here. Or put it, make it. I'm gonna put it on the list. Depression. Let's talk real stuff. It's real chat, Ellen. Real chat. That's what we're here for. So ending on a positive note. Yeah, that diagnosis was, and that whole voyage of self-discovery, life changing. To have left that version of me behind. Lots of things. I'm grateful for that version of me. I'm grateful for the experiences. I'm grateful for the knowledge. I'm grateful for the version of self discovery that was and how that person interacted with the world. But I'm much happier now. So much, so much happier understanding myself, accepting being weird, like not as like a quirky character trait, but just as who I am. I'm just a bit weird, and that's really cool. It's really nice, to just be able to be that. Um, yeah, and of course the life career change as well that went with then deciding, okay, I want to help people on this journey, and that's my raison d'être to support people who are going through that same thing and have the knowledge of understanding to be able to do that. Incredibly powerful.
Yeah, no, it's and I think probably our kind of takeaway would be if you're going through this late diagnosis journey and you're thinking that that might be you, to surround yourself with the support that you need. People have been through it, people are going through it. Neuro ND affirming people.
Yeah,
That
you're not the first person. It
yeah,
feels like it. It feels like you're completely alone. Like you Google stuff. Actually, that's not true. Probably there's much more information available now, but it's hard to find the right stuff. Stuff that's not
mm,
AI generated or designed to make people push a button to buy something, or that's full of non truths. So finding the right stuff is really good. We should probably point to some resources. We've got at the Vet Project website, we've got the ND Hub, which is full of really valuable resources, which includes some of our favorite books, some of our favorite other podcast channels, YouTube channels, for people to consume when they're on this journey. I think we also want to recognize that we talk about ADHD a lot because it's both of our diagnoses, but we want to make sure that we include autism, dyslexia, dyscalculia, dysgraphia, all of the other different neurodivergent conditions, and sort of make sure that even though we share our experiences, this stuff applies to everybody. We talked a lot about the ADHD version of this voyage of self-discovery, but if it's an autistic version of self-discovery, right? Oh yeah, I do communicate differently, or I do have sensory differences, which mean that I experience this world differently. It's still going to be that same roller coaster. It's still going to be that same emotional, who am I now voyage.
Great. Love it.
Good, good. Well, there we are. First episode of this podcast from the Vet Project. Lots of things, lots of spin-offs that we're going to be creating, I'm sure, as we carry on. It'd be interesting. Obviously, time perception, not really my forte with an ADHD brain, so I have no idea how long we've been talking. But yeah, let's stop the tape and find out. If you enjoyed this episode, please send it to a friend, a colleague, a family member, and give us a like or a follow or a subscribe. It costs you nothing, but it could keep us making content to support our tribe. And if you want to work with us, or you want to join the tribe or collect your free resources, just head over to our website, www.thevetproject.co.uk, or send us an email at info@thevetproject.co.uk. And we will look forward to welcoming you on the next episode of The Vet Project Podcast.